Good morning and welcome to QuiltChat.
Hi,
Here
Bonnie.
we're all back again.
Right, welcome back.
Thank you. Well, do you know what? We keep really busy, and especially with the quilt shows. And so you all need to know that registration is currently open for Daytona Beach. We just opened registration for the general public, so everyone can register now for Lancaster. And you don't want to forget to enter your quilts in the Fall Paducah Quilt Show because that deadline is this Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and all of that can be done online. If you have any questions about it, you can go to AQS Quilt Week and click on the contest tab at the top of the page, and you'll find the link to be able to go register. And if you ever have any questions, you can always call Andrea Ray so that she can answer the questions for you. So if you have questions about the size of your quilt and what category, she can help you with that. And that's just call the AQS number, which is 270-898-7903.
Very good.
All right.
Yes.
Lots of quilt stuff coming up. And of course, you know, we're already working on the fall shows. So in January, we'll open registration for our members for fall or for Spring Paducah.
Oh, we have such good teachers coming up at all the shows.
At all the shows, yes,
Quite the
yes.
lineup this
Register
year.
early to get your spot.
That's right. And if you want to be able to get your favorite classes, you really do need to go register. And you'll also find a tab there where you can go do your lodging, reserve your hotel room, and of course, you know, we always negotiate a lower rate for you at the headquarters hotel and some other hotels in each of the cities. So we want everybody to come join us at AQS Quilt Week.
Yay!
Yes, always a party.
That's right.
Yes.
All right, now I know each week we've been going through some style of quilt, and we've gone through the whole gamut this year, haven't we?
Yes. For Quilt 2018, every month we've picked a different quilt style, and we have learned about it. We have played with the design work or the techniques found in it, and then we've also had patterns to make them ourselves. And
There's been a little bit of something for everybody.
It has. If you didn't like one month, you just wait to the next one, and
Right.
pretty soon everybody's favorites came around at some point. And
Well-
so we're coming to the end of it. We're in the last one, and so we saved one of our favorites for the last because it really showcases the whole year's worth of work, and that is miniatures, and they're beautiful, tiny quilts. But what makes a miniature, Bonnie? I think you can best describe exactly what it isn't just its size.
Yeah, and some people get confused about that, and often we get entries in our, we have miniature contest in Paducah, the Spring Paducah show, and they enter a small quilt. But what a miniature really is all of the elements of the quilt, from the size of the blocks, the size of the pieces, clear out to the size of the borders and the finished size of that binding. You can't just make a little tiny quilt and then put your regular binding on it.
Can't just bind your a 12-inch block and call it a miniature.
Nope, that's right. although sometimes we get a few of those entered, but you should be able to look at a picture of that quilt and not be able to tell what size it is. If it's a true miniature, everything should be reduced in scale.
And that's even the stitches, correct? On the quilting stitches?
Yes. And the size of the quilting design that you put on it.
The
If you're
scale.
gonna do background cross hatching or something,
It's teeny tiny.
it's gonna be 1/4 of an inch apart if it's gonna be
crazy
reduced
small.
down in scale.
Right.
So we have some pictures to share with you of some quilts that are semifinalists from previous Spring Paducahs. This one is My Persian Version by George Siciliano.
And I don't know, but those little logs in those pieces must be
Wow.
about 1/16 of an inch wide. They are
That's
very
incredible.
narrow.
The actual size of this is what?
Can you read that?
I can't read that, but it's just very, very small.
It's usually 8 or 10 inches is what he
Yeah.
works in. They're very tiny.
But it looks like a 108-inch quilt.
Yes.
It could be, yes,
Yes.
if you didn't know.
Yes. And this one is Rolling on the River by Karen Kretschmar.
And again, you could see that blown up into a larger wall hanging.
And so this
So
is a
she's-
landscape quilt.
And she's taken that binding is a very tiny binding.
It is.
It is.
And you know, sometimes people put a a little tiny insert of a piping on the edge instead of a binding.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then face it on the back, because then you don't have to work with that little narrow binding.
And this one is English Cottage, and this is actually demonstrating embroidery purse, which is one of our months that we had. All those flowers are embroidery purse, and that's by Karen Turnbull.
That's
All right,
lovely. And
great
that's a
quilts.
neat edging too.
It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Very pretty.
And we have several people saying hello.
Yes,
We
we
do?
have
Yes,
Brazil
we do.
and New Mexico and Norway.
Yes, hello. It's
We
so
love
good to have
having you join us on
We
Wednesday
do.
morning.
Wherever you are.
Yes. And Beth's going to be in Lancaster. So she's excited. Very excited. And then the next thing we have going on, because I have more show and tell, is the Christmas countdown.
Oh, and aren't the
We
quilt
love it.
blocks wonderful?
Yes. Oh my goodness. And so these, talk about miniature. These are 4.5-inch unfinished quilt blocks. And I have a few to show off and share with you. This is, let's see, that looks like it's block 2 by Shelley Ingram.
Okay, so that means if those are 4-inch blocks finished.
It's about 2-inch pieces.
And so, well, each of those strips in each quarter would be an inch wide, wouldn't they?
Half
they're
inch.
Oh,
half
half
inch.
inch wide,
Right,
half inch
half
wide.
inch.
Although,
Yes,
yes,
yes, because you've got 8 of them.
yes. And
Right.
the next one, there we go. And that is block 1 by Ira Kosova. And she's been very regular with us through all of our different sew-alongs and always does such beautiful work.
I bet she's already made the other 75 blocks.
From
other
Right,
years.
right.
Yes.
Goodness. And then this one is by Richie Laneson Jr., and this is block 3. And so you can see those little half square triangles are teeny tiny.
Well, and they are tiny, but it's all just straight stitching.
Oh, it is. And it truly isn't, it just takes a little bit more patience when you're working with it.
Right.
It feels intimidating, but it isn't hard at all. It just takes measuring. Right. You just take your time and you just measure as
A
you
little
go.
more precision, maybe.
And like
Because
you always do, Betsy,
don't want to get off
you
the 16th
oversized
inch.
them a little bit so they trim them down to size. So that makes it so you can make sure they're all exactly the same.
Yes.
Right.
Because we want you to be able to get it down to exactly, precisely where you want it to be.
When you put your pieces together on a small piece, on a small block like that, do you sometimes glue them instead of pinning them?
And that's
I've
real
found
common with
that
precise
is,
piecing.
I think that works really well.
Because pins are so big, they can get in the way.
Yes.
And so
And
gluing
they
will-
shift just a little bit on something that tiny. It's really good to put a little dot of glue to hold it solidly until you get your chance to sew.
I had one I was trying to fix. I was trying to twirl my seam allowances on the back,
Right.
so that it would lay flat. Because you have all these seams you have to deal with on the back because they're really noticeable on that little block. And I couldn't get it apart. It's because I glued it. And so I was like, I got this. And I just put
Had to wet it a little bit.
And it dissolved and I
the old
opened it up.
spit trick.
But it took me a minute. I couldn't figure out why it was stuck shut. So yes, I definitely do that. I love that very much. And then we also have over in the member area for AQS members, you find that by going to AmericanQuilter.com, the member only tab on the far right corner.
And they have to sign in.
They do. Sign in with your membership login and you get hundreds and hundreds of patterns. All of the AQ magazine patterns, if you want to print those out while you're working on them to write on, they're all available there. And then we also have a lot of fun content for you. And this month we're doing 30 Days of Snowflakes.
I
so it's
can't
snowing.
wait to try these snowflakes.
And they're all embroidery. And we have an example of the first 6 days for you. I realize we're only on day 5, but
Now just imagine on navy
Yes.
fabric
Would look
with,
like sparkly
with
stars.
sparkly silver and white and gold
So
threads.
pretty.
Oh, I just think that's fabulous. That'll be
and so we have
pretty.
those patterns for you to print out there. You can enlarge them, shrink them, embroider them, however you want.
Wow.
They're a lot of
Nice.
fun.
Yeah. Well, now, Ann, I got something in my mailbox yesterday.
Did you?
I did.
I guess you got
It's magazine
this.
time.
I did.
Yes,
The new
it is.
American Quilter
It
magazine.
is magazine time. And here it is.
I love the little raccoons. They're the cutest.
They are. We're really excited about this one, as we are excited to show you the quilt behind us, which is boxed in. Just to let you know that it's in the magazine, the pattern for this. It is a design made and quilted by Wendy Sheppard. And the fabrics are very unique. Those are Marcia Durst fabrics. And she does some really fun collections. This one is called Art History 101. But isn't this a neat idea for not just a major focal fabric like she is using, but imagine this same pattern with perhaps photographs from your family Christmas.
Children's artwork.
Children's artwork.
Where they could
your
color on
vacation.
fabric.
Your vacation.
Yes.
Maybe t-shirts. Put portions of t-shirts in those smaller chunks, and you can kind of play with the pattern to make it work out for you. This one is actually made with kind of a log cabin style.
Like courthouse steps.
Courthouse step style,
Yes.
right. Where you do the side pieces and then you do the top and bottom.
And then when you add on the next frame, you do the same
right.
thing. And just
So
keep adding
it's
on.
very easy. The instructions are in here. And we'd love it if you would try one of these.
Well, and you know, I know all of you out there have worked on some guild projects. And you know what? When those blocks come back from the guild members, they are hardly ever the same size. This technique is a great technique to use on your guild projects because you just figure out the biggest block and the smallest block, and you add a border to the biggest block and then add that same amount to all the others. And now, you know what? They're all going to go together.
So you're saying not just for this type, but for any kind.
Any
if you
kind.
border them with, and you could do an easy
Yes,
border like
yes,
that.
That frame. Just put that frame
the
around
frame.
each block.
It gives them grace.
Well, yes, and if you've ever tried to stretch and work in extra fabric to put blocks together,
It's
Yes.
tough.
you're going to want to try this.
It's much better than gathering the block, isn't it?
It is. It is. It is. Oh,
That's very
well, and
true.
you know what? We promised you that from now until Christmas, we would do an easy to sew project.
Yes.
And so I've done pillowcases, and I know my mother has done this for all the grandchildren, and they love their own little pillowcase. So I'm going to show you an easy way to do that. And so you're going to cut your base fabric, and so that's our little dog fabric here, is cut 21 inches by 27 inches. And a regular size pillow is 20 by 26. So regardless of what size pillow you have, if you just add 1 inch to the length and the width, this same technique will work.
That is a great tip.
Yes,
That's
yes.
good to
So
know.
it could fit any size. All right, so I cut the cuff is 10 inches by 21 inches. All right. And the first thing I did was I folded down a 1/2 inch on one edge. Now, here's the tricky part, and I only say this because I had to rip one of these off because I sewed it wrong. You would think you're going to sew it right sides to right sides, right? Well, we're going to flip this cuff over. So you want to sew the right side of the cuff to the wrong side of one section of the pillowcase.
And if you have directional fabric like you do there, you want to be sure to
Yeah.
make sure you're pointing the right direction.
At least I didn't make that mistake.
It can happen too.
All right, so then once you've got and I will just give you a tip on pressing because you're going to want to press this seam allowance toward the cuff so that it'll all be encased. But if you will hold this in your hand and iron from this side, that seam allowance will naturally fall toward the part you're holding.
Right.
Okay? All right, so now we're going to sew it on, and all we're going to do is we're going to lay it over the top of our previous seam there and pin it in place and just top stitch right along that edge. Okay,
And
so
that's all there is to it on
well,
that side.
almost, because then now to put the whole thing together, I'm going to put right sides together. And we're going to start over here at this edge of the cuff. So down, cross the bottom, and back up. And I do backstitch.
I was going to ask
at the
you
start
that.
and
Yes.
stop when I do this.
Good
No,
idea.
When we do most quilting, we don't backstitch very much.
No.
But on this, you would want to backstitch. All right, now, because I want you to make this, you know, if these are for children, especially pillow fights. I don't know if you had them when you were kids, but we always
Maybe a couple.
did. So we want to encase all of the edges so that there are no unfinished seams. So when you get the whole pillowcase all done, you're going to come back and you're going to start here and you're going to sew in. I took 1/4 of an inch to sew it together. I took 3/8 of an inch on this particular seam, sew it all the way down and around the top. And when you get that done, you can see that you have all finished edges.
Great idea.
Everywhere. And so, you know, sometimes the edge will come loose a little bit. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to bend very much. I'd rather make it from scratch.
Right.
And so there's your pillowcase all finished.
Good
And so
idea for
again-
kids, because kids kind of treat things sometimes a little more
They love them
roughly
extra.
than we would expect.
They love them extra.
Well, do you know, we always buy new pajamas for Christmas, right? And so you could make sure that they had some kind of a pretty
fun.
little
Oh, a matching
pillowcase
pillowcase would be
that
so
goes with
fun.
their pajamas.
Very clever, Bonnie.
Well, all right, now, you have a box in front of you.
I do, and I think that means this is my box. No, I will share.
I will just tell you that this one here in the middle already got the
You
first
already
piece.
Maybe.
She's at her.
Maybe.
I said, look what I made for QuiltChat this
And I
morning.
said,
and
oh,
she
thank
went,
you.
Okay. Anyway, this is one of my favorite memories is making candy with Wayne's mother. And she and I would each buy 20 pounds of sugar, and some weekend after Thanksgiving and before Christmas, we would make candy that weekend until 40 pounds of sugar was done. And we made
Oh,
all
my
kinds of
goodness.
fudge and peanut brittle and date roll and divinity. And
I'm
then,
just imagining how much candy 40 pounds of sugar makes.
a lot, a lot. And then we would split it up, and then we would have candy to be able to give to our neighbors and our friends and gifts for the whole Christmas season. And this is a recipe. You know me, I don't like to cook so much. You know what? It's hard to cook for one. But this is a recipe that I did in my crock pot. And it's called Crock Pot Peanut Clusters. And it uses 2 packages of white bark, a package of chocolate chips, and I used Ghirardelli.
Nice.
Okay, milk chocolate. You could use German chocolate if you wanted. You could use dark chocolate, whatever you prefer. And then 3 tablespoons of cocoa, a tablespoon of oil, and 2 pounds of roasted and salted peanuts. And I bought the jar that was like this.
Right.
Okay. And so you put it in. You put the chocolates and the cocoa and the oil in your crock pot. And don't do anything with it, just put it in there and turn it on for 30 minutes. Then open it up and stir it, and it will pretty much stir together at that point. 30 more minutes in the crock pot, and it will be all nice and smooth. Then you're going to add your peanuts, and I put those in, and I just did it for 15 more minutes to heat those through. And honestly, this is only a fraction of what it made.
Wow.
Because I had 2 pieces of wax paper on my stove and 2 more pieces on my kitchen table.
And you filled it with
And
these
so
things,
this
too.
is probably about 1/3 of what that made. So if you have to make for a bunch,
That's fabulous.
and so now our crew will all get to have peanut clusters today.
They will love that.
All
And
right.
so we have this recipe at aqsblog.com. You were kind enough to share it. And so we've posted it there for you so you don't have to try to write really fast while you were talking.
Oh, and think about the different nuts you could use in that.
Oh, you could use almonds,
yum.
pecans.
Pecans
Ooh,
and
pecans would be
cashews.
good.
Even
cashews.
cashews.
How about
would be good, too.
pistachios? That would be fabulous.
Oh. Well, so we hope that you're out there making some candy and making some memories with your family. And try this little pillowcase. I bet your
Yes.
grandchildren and your children would absolutely love it. And with that, we'll see you right here again next week.
Yes.
Same time, same station.
Have a good week.